tankers. This comes as President Trump announces that Venezuela's interim authorities will turn over up to 50 million barrels of sanctioned oil to the U.S. He says it will then be sold at market price. We now go live to NTD's Washington correspondent Mari Osu at the North Lawn of the White House. Mari, good afternoon. What is the latest from the briefing?
Don, good afternoon. Yes, all eyes are still on Venezuela as the White House today confirms the seizure of two more sanctioned oil tankers. Press Secretary Leavitt today saying that the Department of War, in conjunction with the Department of Homeland Security under Operation Southern Spear, seized what she calls a stateless sanctioned dark fleet motor tanker that was conducting illicit activities in the Caribbean Sea. The other tanker, called Bella 1, was seized in the North Atlantic, with the British military expressing support of the seizures, saying, quote, that it was part of a Russian-Iranian axis of sanctions evasions that was causing terrorism, conflict, and misery from the Middle East to Ukraine. And meanwhile, the White House is saying that the Trump administration, led by Secretary Rubio, is in close correspondence with the interim authorities in Venezuela, adding that those interim authorities agreed to let the U.S. seize that oil. This comes as President Trump announced Tuesday night, that Venezuela will be releasing 30 to 50 million barrels of sanctioned oil to the U.S., where it will be sold at market price. The White House says that Energy Secretary Chris Wright is currently in Florida today talking to oil executives, and that conversation will continue back at the White House later this week. Leavitt says that the U.S. has already begun marketing that Venezuelan oil, and that the U.S. is selectively rolling back sanctions in order to do that, so it can transport and sell Venezuelan crude oil and oil products to global markets. All proceeds from the sale of that oil, Leavitt says, will first settle in U.S.-controlled accounts here, and then those funds will then be dispersed for what she calls the benefit of both the American people and the Venezuelan people. And here's the White House today announcing that the crew of Bella 1, that Russian-flagged oil tanker, may be subject to prosecution. Take a look.
The vessel this morning was seized in the North Atlantic pursuant to a warrant issued by a U.S. federal court after being tracked. And this was a Venezuelan shadow fleet vessel that has transported sanctioned oil. And the United States of America, under this president, is not going to tolerate that. I would also just add the vessel had a judicial seizure order and the crew, so that means the crew is now subject to prosecution for any applicable violation of federal law, and they will be brought to the United States for such prosecution if necessary.
Meanwhile, as the effects of the capture of former Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro are felt around the world, President Trump today, earlier this morning, posting to Truth Social, saying that Russia and China have, quote, zero fear of NATO without the U.S., and that the only nation that China and Russia fear is the United States, the vision of America that he is rebuilding. This comes as the Trump administration doubles down in the wake of Operation Absolute Resolve on all Western countries that they say are aligning with U.S. adversaries. President Trump saying that the U.S. needs to acquire Greenland from a national security standpoint, and the White House confirming that the U.S. is currently talking about that acquisition and what a potential purchase of Greenland might look like, with the first option being diplomacy. The White House saying this about the president's motives in that Greenland acquisition. Take a look.
More control over the Arctic region and ensuring that China and Russia and our adversaries cannot continue their aggression in this very important and strategic region. And there would be many other benefits as well that, again, the president and his national security team are currently talking about.
Why does the president feel he needs to own Greenland and not and put out the threat of military action when this could be done through diplomacy?
Well, who said diplomacy isn't taking place behind the scenes, Dasha? I mean, the president is interested in diplomacy. His national security team is as well. And of course, he's always willing to pick up the phone for everybody and hear out their concerns. But the president is the president of the United States of America, and he's always going to be very clear about what he views as being in our nation's best interest.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying that he plans to meet Danish officials, his Danish counterparts, next week to talk about the United States' interest in Greenland. Don, back to you.
Okay, Mari, thank you. House Speaker Mike Johnson this morning told reporters that he doesn't expect use